Hello! In this lesson I'm going to tell you how to get sweep picking down, because nobody has told you and you're on this video for a reason. So what I like to do when I'm practicing sweeping is I like to pick the ones that are really hard, and I mean literally challenge myself so that I'm learning the hardest sweep possible. But when I play it perfectly, because perfect practice is perfect practice, isn't it? Sure, it's at a slower tempo, but you can slowly increase that tempo. So you go from and that isn't so hard. A lot of people have this preconceived notion that sweeping is extremely hard. It's really not. So here's what I suggest you try out. Take your guitar, be it Cherry, be it ESP, be it whatever, and put some thick brand new strings on it. Just 1 gauge above your regular standard set of strings, be it 9, some people like to use 8, some people go in between. Make sure it's one whole thing up and raise your action. Now some of you are going, no, I'm not doing that. But honestly, if you do that, it's like weight training in a way, because when you're practicing on a thicker string, it forces you to pick it a bit more cleanly. It demands a little bit more precision because it's a new gauge anyway. And when you go back down to the original gauge, you're going to find that all of a sudden you can play the sweeps a lot faster, because your picking hand will be trained to basically pick the exact perfect spot. Once you have that muscle memory down for the right hand, you're going to be set. For example, pay attention to the right hand here. Notice how it's like a fluid, nice motion. And I'm picking each note for the same value of time. And that cleanliness will eventually translate into more speed, and it will just become a part of muscle memory, and then it's just applying it in the right place. So there is that. Now what I like to do again is I like to pick hard sweeps. So for me that's the big diminished 6-string sweep. And you see how I'm kind of not getting it exactly there. That's because I turned the gain down. Logical step, because then it forces you so that you have to pick it correctly or it sounds like crap. See, that wasn't perfect, but I was forced to use thick gauge strings to pick it correctly, and without all that gain, I have to pick it cleanly. It's kind of like you're putting the parameters and setting yourself up for success in a way, and that should be applied to all parts of playing. Like if you want to practice vibrato, it's just a part of getting your fingers used to the string tension on the fretboard. Right now I'm in D standards and I'm with 10 gauge strings, so it's a little bit buzzy. You can hear how it's buzzy. And so because of that, my string tension is a lot more loose, and that definitely helps with playing some faster stuff, because I typically have quite high tension when I'm in standard tuning with the 10s, at least for my hands they are. But then again, it comes back down to practicing with a thicker gauge string, getting the hard stuff down using a stupid metronome. There's websites out there that have metronomes, so you can't be lazy as long as you have internet. So that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. Now in terms of metronome practice, I have a few students that respond far better to visual stimuli rather than sound. And that's just how they focus better on the rhythm. They're used to seeing the rhythm more than they are hearing it, because maybe they're not as musically trained to hear the rhythm. I did an experiment. I would tap my foot or clap my hands to the exact tempo that was being clicked by a metronome, an auditory metronome. And I kept on going, and then halfway through the practice or the scale I was telling them to learn, all of a sudden they screwed up. They straight up just couldn't get the time again. And then I let them do it just without me clapping my hands, and they struggled. So, for those of you who find that a regular metronome just doesn't do the trick, that might be why. Anyway, this lesson was brought to you by Win.